Welcome to Tutorials with Taff. I'm Taff. Today we're going to concentrate on creating an image with layers. So that's adding layer upon layer, adding elements into an image. We covered a few very basic things in our Back to Basics video. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a little kitchen picture. As you can see here, I have taken some photos. We have a chopping board, a counter, a knife, and a pepper, and we're going to take all these pictures apart and put them together. So there'll be a few different techniques used in this, and for each layer I'll try and use a different technique to show you how we add that layer in. So first we'll go onto the counter and we'll put that in our image. I'll just minimize this a moment. Yes, we want to rotate it. As you can see, it's decided to come in absolutely massive. So Control, Shift and J. Well, it's not selected that properly. Control, Shift and J. And there we go. So we have a close-up picture of our counter. As this is our background, we aren't going to do anything with that. What we'll do is we'll drag and drop the chopping board in on top. So this will take a moment, and yes, we want to rotate that. Now, obviously this chopping board has got an image around it, and if we remove the background, it makes no difference. So what we want to do is we want to take out everything around the edge of that chopping board, and the first method we're going to use to do that is by applying a layer mask. So if we go to right click on where we see chopping board in the little panel on the bottom right hand side of the screen, this is our layers panel. So right click on the chopping board, add layer mask. This will bring up a menu for the different modes. We're going to choose white full opacity, which basically means that anything that's painted white we'll see, anything that's painted black we don't see. Various shades of grey will give us various levels of opacity, but we want to see the image that we're actually filling in first. Black full opacity, full transparency does the opposite. It applies a black layer that we then need to paint white on to reveal what's underneath. We're going to go with white full opacity for this one, and we've got our black and white selected here. So we want the black selected, a paintbrush tool. We want, out of the brush selections, we want this one so that it's a nice hard brush. As you can see from the marching ants around the cursor, the brush size is quite big, so we'll take it down here in the size bar, right down. That will do nicely. So if you want to draw a straight line, which I do because I want to follow the edge of the chopping board, I'm not really going to do a very neat thing here. I'm just going to quickly do as much as I can to show you. So press Shift, click on that, and as you can see, a line draws, and when we go down to the end, click on it, and there we go. It's drawn a black line, which from here it looks grey because it's going to the layer underneath. If I click on the I button there, it removes the counter, so you can see there's the checkered background that you get on any transparency. So we'll complete that on all sides. So Shift click to the corner, to the corner, to the corner, and then we'll just fill in around it a little. Shortly we'll zoom in and have a look. In fact, we'll do that now. So Control and scroll in on the wheel. As I'm using a separate mouse, if I press the space bar and move the mouse, it moves the image around. So we'll fill in the corners here. We want to remove the handle Like I said, I know I'm going outside the lines and it's not perfect, but the idea of this isn't for me to be perfect. It's for me to do as quick a job as possible and show you what it is that that you can do in GIMP. Let's round this corner a little. Right, okay, so we've got the corners pretty much done. Control Shift and J to full size the image. Now we'll go to the size of the brush and we'll bring it up quite big, bigger than that again. There we go, because we're going to just paint over the bits that are off the chopping board. This is one of the first techniques that I learned for removing a background. So we've got the chopping board there. It's not brilliant, but you know, I don't really need it to be. If I click that, it brings back the image below, so we can see that the chopping board is on top of the work surface. Now, right click on the chopping board, and we want to actually apply the layer mask so that we can move it around and so on. To make this easier to manage, if we go to layer and crop to content, oh dear, sorry, the layer normally crops right down to the actual content. As you can see, it's not really aligned with the worktop very well. So we'll go into our transform tools, right click, and then we'll go down to rotate. For those of you who like your shortcuts, it's Control and R. So that little dot in the middle, if we move it, it moves the point that it's rotating around. So what we'll do is we'll move this up a little bit so it's more central on the chopping board. And then when we go out to the corners, if we click and move it in any direction, it moves it around. So so we'll go here, and then we'll use the transform tool. So enter, and this will do the rotate. In a moment, what we will do is we'll crop the layer down to show just the chopping board. So going to select the rectangle selection tool, click and drag. Now, don't worry if you haven't dragged far enough or too far, because you can use these squares in the middle to adjust your selection. And then we're going to go layer, crop to selection, Control Shift and A to remove the selection. Back to our transform tools, and we're going to go for the unified transform. Click on that, and there we go. So we can make it look more like it's lying on top of the counter by literally dragging the corners out to give it the right perspective. These squares in the middle of the unified transform tool, they pull the sides out, so it acts like the scale tool and so on. I'll click enter, and that will do it nicely. Now, what I want to do here as well is go to the filters and go light and shadow. We're going to use the drop shadow here. So if we move that round, you can see there's the shadow appearing on the worktop underneath. So all the way down to there, that's good. The grow radius, let's make it a little longer, a bit more blurry. There we go. So the shadow kind of helps make it look like the look like the chopping board is really on top of the work surface. We don't want too much of a shadow, just that to give the impression that it's there, that it's really there, and then click OK. So we're going to add the pepper on. It's just opening that at the moment. Excuse the banging going on. That's one of my neighbours apparently dismantling half of his garage. Right, so we're going to turn the opacity down on this, because what we want to do is use the scale tool. So that is found in the transform tools like this, up here in transform tools up here, or you can just control shift and S. Shift and S in a moment. There we go. There's the scale tool. As you can see here, it's all linked inside, so we can be quite happy in the fact that our pepper is going to kind of stay the same size. So we'll move the pepper around. That's about the right size, and that's where we'll put it. So click enter. We'll turn the opacity back up. Now, another method of removing the background, we'll right click on the pepper. Add alpha channel is grayed out because there's already an alpha channel there. If it's not grayed out, select that, and we're going to go shift and we'll select shift control and the mouse wheel, control and the mouse wheel to zoom in, so that we can get our pepper on the screen nice and big. Now we're going to go to our selection tools and select scissors select, which is I, and the little crosshairs, we want to get them in as close as we can to the pepper outskirts. As this is just a demonstration, I'm not going to try and be too accurate. Another way to do this is to use the paths tool, which I can show you in another video. The paths tool is quite good, because you can add little nodes in, move them around to get more accurate curves and so on. But to just select around an object like this nice and quickly, I like to use the select tool. So that is our first one, node. So we go to there, and as you might be able to see, there's a little infinity symbol. So click on there, and that closes the loop. Now press shift while you're inside the selection, and it turns to a plus. And there we go. Now in this tab up here, I've got this window open which shows me what is selected. We want to invert that selection, because if we press delete now, it'll take out the pepper. In fact, I'll show you. If I click delete, the pepper disappears. So control and Z to bring that back, to undo it. If we go to select, we want to invert the selection, and then click delete and control shift and J. Now obviously we have our marching ant spec. Control shift and A to get rid of them. The pepper needs a little bit of work, because it's far too bright compared to its situation. So we can go to the brightness and contrast. We can turn the brightness of the pepper down and the contrast up a little. It still looks a little unnatural, but here we'll go to the tools again, the filters, light and shadow, and this time we'll actually go for a long shadow. We'll turn that round so that it's in line with the shadow that we previously had, and we'll go fading fixed length. We'll turn the length up a bit. Yeah, that looks about right, and turn the opacity down a bit. Okay, enter. Okay. Normally I would have paid more attention around the edges. Yeah, if we look in at the edges here, we can see that they are a little over the top, but that doesn't really matter for this one. You can, yeah, so you could go in before doing your shadow with your eraser tool here, and you can get rid of, of any sharp edges and so on. But we're not going to worry about that right now. We just want to show you how you actually use the facility. So Control Shift and J to bring that back to a normal full size. So let's go and add the knife. It's just loading up right now, and when that's loaded up, I'm going to show you using the quick mask tool. Okay, yes, we want to rotate that knife. Yet again, let's turn the opacity down a bit, and Shift and S to open the scale tool, and we'll bring that knife down to about, let's have a look. That looks about right. Okay, so hit enter there, and we'll go for the rotate tool as well. Shift and R, and rotate the knife a little. There we go. Enter. Now, while it's rotating, I'll just explain that the masks, they're a non-destructive way of doing things. So there's a lot of different ways of going about these things in GIMP. If you want to know more about anything in particular, feel free to let me know in the comments. Here in the bottom left hand corner of your screen, as you can see, when I put the cursor over it, it says toggle the quick mask on and off, or you can press Shift and Q. Everything suddenly goes red, and what we're going to do now is we're going to zoom in on the knife itself, switch the colors to white. So see these little arrows, these will shift my colors left and right, or you can click on the black and it'll open up your color selector. You can choose your color there. These are your foreground and background colors. We're going to flip that so that it's in white, and as we paint on the knife, you can see the knife is becoming clear. Yeah, so the great thing with so with these masks like this is there you go. I've gone way outside the edges, but we'll come back in a moment and we will tidy all this up with a smaller brush tool. So that's our entire knife. If we flip this back and then we move the brush size down, we can go and fill in nicely the bits that we've gone outside of. As I explained earlier, I'm not going to spend ages doing this. I don't speed up my videos. I do everything so that you can see how long it actually takes to do. So we're just going to give this a quick tidy up. I'm not going to be that careful with it. Space and move my mouse. Just brings up the that brings the image up. Lets me move the image around with the mouse, and let's go flip back over to the white. And that's close enough. So if I Control Shift and J, if we hit enter and then toggle the mask off, you can see there's a selection around the knife. Obviously we want to invert the selection, so that's select and invert, or Control and I. So press Control and I, invert that selection, and we can go delete again. Now, if we Control Shift and A, we can control and zoom in, and you can see that there's some grey bits around there. So we can, so we can take our eraser tool and we can erase them to tidy it up. And Control Shift and J to move outwards. Yet again, we're going to go to the tools, so the filters, light and shadow, and here we're going to use the drop shadow again, because the long shadow on the knife wouldn't be quite right. There we go. The grow radius in a bit. Okay, so there you have some basics of how to add in layers to make up a single image. As you've seen, all three objects in this image are from different images. We've removed the background and we've put them into to make them look like they all belong together. I haven't done the best of jobs, but then that's because I'm not going to spend that much time faffing around to show you what to do. I would rather do a poor attempt at it, showing you the principles and giving you the information that you need to go and do it yourself, and not to speed things up. So this way you get an idea of how long it would actually take to do properly. So I hope this has been helpful. If you have any comments, if you have any requests for any videos, if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments, send me a message, and thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a good day.